I want to be home by
All right, ZBA, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines will remain off. Go for it.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of January 13th, 2026. Tonight is our work session, and I'll swing right into the first administrative application, 96 Tuttle Road, LLC, 96 Tuttle Road, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-17-1-14.1. This is to demolish a residence and construct a patio within the jurisdiction of a bluff. Morgan?
Okay, so the application is to demolish is basically fully out of NRSP jurisdiction except for a 35 square foot portion of the entryway walkway right here. That's a pervious walkway. So it's essentially a demolition permit with a 35 square foot patio within jurisdiction proposed.
NRSP, no variance.
But
No variances. Nope, it's fully.
No, that's the only
so-
way it could be administrative.
Right.
Yeah, so this green line here is the 100-foot setback in here.
The current house is.
The current house, yes. And then this is the proposed house, with which this is the 100-foot setback here.
So the new house is fully out of.
Yeah, the house itself.
Is 01-14.1. Make a motion to allow this application to proceed administratively.
Second.
Concur.
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 Post-hearing decision, first one is Goldman Trust, 51 East Lake Drive in Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-20-2-16. The description is application is to excavate approximately 2,000 square feet of bamboo and construct a 400 square foot carport, 120 square foot shed, enlarged driveway, 309 square foot addition, which is no longer a part of the application, and the reconstruction of a cabana, shed, driveway gate, and the reconstruction of a staircase to the beach on a parcel of land containing coastal bluffs, freshwater and tidal wetlands. Relief sought is a natural resource special permit pursuant to 255-420, variances from 255-430 of the Town of East Hampton Town Code, and any other relief necessary. The following wetland setback variances are required where a 100-foot setback is required. 80-foot variance to construct the carport 20 feet from wetlands, an 83-foot variance to construct the shed 17 feet from wetlands, a 68.7-foot variance to construct the deck 30.3 feet from wetlands, and a 26.6-foot variance is required to construct the deck 23.4 feet from the bluff crest where a 50-foot setback is required. Zoning district is A residence zone, AE flood zone, elevation 11, secret class is unlisted. Terry, would you like to begin?
Yeah, now bear with me since we got the new documents after the hearing. Okay, the hearing date was on 12/9/25. We had, the application is to do a bamboo removal, and we had a plan dated 12/14/22 from Charlie and Sons on a protocol for the bamboo invasive removals. We had a drainage plan, actually we got a new drainage plan on 12/18/2025 after the hearing when the board had requested some additional information and the possibility of moving the shed to a different location, which was done, but we'll get to that. Actually, I have a different Charlie and Son bamboo removal plan dated 6/6/24. One was a protocol, and one, David Kirst was the agent for it, as well as Shannon McCaffrey was involved, and William. All right, so on this, it sounds like a good plan to me. The protocol is good, it's well presented. Brian Frank was our planner on this, and, he had his concerns about it, as we all do, because we all know what bamboo does. So there were a lot of concerns about how that would be done. The project will last over a number of years. Brian yesterday, and he couldn't find the digital one that approved this project for the invasives for bamboo online at all. So if they may have submitted the wrong one. In the digital file, there was an approved one for the property at 55 East Lake Drive, which was the homeowner that was originally going to be part of this dual project and has now, eliminated themselves from it. So we do still need an approved DEC permit for 51.
So we can condition that
We
if
can condition
approved.
that on an approval, yes. What else I have to say about that? Not much. It's going to go on. Very interesting. I hope it all works out. David Kirst also in his submission when he began, they are removing from the project the deck extension, which eliminated the variance for the bluff, for the 23.4 feet for the bluff, as well as the variance, the wetland variance for that.
Right.
And so that left us with the two variances, one for the carport of 20 feet from the wetlands and one for the shed, which originally was 17 from the wetland. And in the new submission, the new survey that we also received just the other day, we received it on December 18th, 2025. It shows the shed up farther north. They moved it farther north a little bit to the east of the walkway that actually goes toward the house and the cabana portion of the house. And the new variance, the new distance from the wetland is now 19.2. So other things that they were proposing are to eliminate, to upgrade to an IA sanitary, also seemed to be all okay with the planner, was to only change the main IA system itself, and they're going to reuse the leaching portions of the original sanitary system because the wetland has been growing over those basically and keeps going. They submitted the drainage plan. They went over it at the hearing, the drainage plan, and basically they sized the drainage with a whole lot of dry wells, which they showed us on the drainage plan submitted the other day, and all of them were sized in order to handle there was a 2-inch rainfall, and they're spaced side by side so that they should take care of the entire area of the proposed parking area, which they are proposing to enlarge. There was some concern by Brian on that. But it seems by the numbers that those dry wells and that drainage plan should take care of the water that will be coming down the driveway, because it is anticipated that will be happening. Other things that they added, they are offering an 8,440 square foot scenic easement. There was some testimony by Brian, he's not sure what the nexus of that is for it, but they're offering it. So, and let's see, did I miss? Well, overall, they're going down in total coverage from there was a 2016 approved redevelopment on the property, and which never got implemented. And overall, from 2016 they are going down 127 feet in total lot coverage. Clearing, they're estimating is going to go down by about 4,000 square feet overall. 676 feet for some of the re-veg, 800 from along the bluff top that's proposed for revegetation, 3,000 in the bamboo, and total lot coverage and clearing. There'll be a 672 increase, I believe, in coverage because of the shed and the carport. Overall, I'm in favor of this application. I think I am approving everything on it, actually, the carport, and with the additional 2 feet in the shed, it's not that exciting, but I think I will approve that variance also from the wetlands on that. So. Now, all of this and everything I was rambling on about is included in a document that David Kirst handed out to the entire board the night of the hearing. Oh, and I'm sorry, the steps down to the water where there were going to be changes made, they're only going to replace that in kind and in place. No changes to it at all, just. And let's see, narrative went away. Cabana now, which is at the end of the house, was going to be also just redone in place. And the shower was going to be moved outside of the cabana. We just wanted to make it a little larger for storage. And all in all, I am in favor of that. And I look forward to seeing how this project works out. Very interested in that.
Thank you, Member Berger, for that very thorough summation. Vice Chair Johann?
Yes, thank you. I'm largely in agreement with my fellow board member. Make a couple of points. We did start with an active conversation of the bamboo, the protocol, the challenges of removing bamboo in this circumstance. There wasn't an early effort on behalf of this applicant and the neighbor to remove an additional couple of thousand square feet of it. That apparently is not going to move forward, but we think this is a very beneficial project to see the bamboo removed. We had the conversation about protocol, as you said. We had a presentation on behalf of it. We did hear back from Brian Frank, who Brian was adamant in saying that any place bamboo can be removed, we should be removing it. So I think the bamboo overall as an issue, looked at a lot of discussion, was a quick approval on my part of this is the right thing to do, the thing we should be encouraging others to do. We run into bamboo on a lot of lots, and it is a bit of a curse. So I think we're heading in the right direction with that. I think there are a couple of other things. The deck extension, as was mentioned, was removed from this. That was one of our early concerns, obviously the variance on the water side of the house. I think we had an active conversation about a couple of things to do with the driveway coverage. As you're coming in on the property, there's a spot now where there's a temporary structure with a tarp over a framework that allows you to store a car. That's to be removed. That area is to be revegetated. A little more area is going to be added for them parking by the house. But as an exchange, it was a fair one, I think, in terms of the overall layout. The discussion of both the shed and the carport, one of the concerns that was raised, I know one was raised by the chair, at that point was the vice chair, was, how much damage are we doing? How much digging are we doing? And in both cases, they've agreed that both buildings, if they were to move forward, would be to be constructed on sonotubes. So we're talking about point loads rather than any long, extensive excavation in that area. Those are all two positives in terms of that. The drainage was discussed. Drainage is important. It was pointed out because of the soils there by Brian Frank that the drainage is very difficult in this area. And so we had to have enough potential to collect that. Again, the applicant representative presented their statistics about what they felt was enough. But we did have to go back to Brian and ask, how he felt about this, because this is a critical component of what we're thinking about approving here in terms of this particular lot. We've had other lots in the area. We know just how hard it is for them to do anything with draining water. There is a reduction in the size of the driveway. There's a reduction in clearing. There's the increase in the building coverage. There's a revegetation at the bluff that's going to go on, which is going to help. There's going to be revegetation in the area where we had some other, that temporary building is to be removed. Let me just see here. The deck variances of the sheds are removed. Carport, okay. So one of the things is that's a positive here for me. The 2016 approval was for a total redevelopment. This is not a redevelopment. This, therefore, we've seen potentially considerably less damage to the property. That has nothing to do with the decision we're making tonight, but I do think it's an improvement to see that they came forward with a plan that's going to be less disturbing environmentally. That's a positive in my way of looking at things, that it's not a complete development. I think there's you mentioned the easement, which is 8,440 feet. Brian said there might not be a nexus for that with the carport, but nonetheless, on a property like this, I think getting a 584 400 square foot easement is really critical. So it comes down to me for a discussion of the carport. Brian was pretty adamant that adding that hardened surface above is going to shunt water down onto the wetlands, and it's going to be another factor to be dealt with and potential for flooding. However, I do think the carport is over disturbed area. It's over a pervious material, and that doesn't mean that that water won't be shunt, but the Sharon McCafferty made the point that they had allowed for that in their calculations for water coming from the roof. So if that water is to be directed down into what is now proper drainage, with all respect for Brian's position, I think it was a strong one, I think that given the, as was mentioned by Member Berger, I think the totality of this application is one that shows us some give and take both on coverage, replanting, re-veg here, removal of the bamboo, the easement.
Yep.
All of these things lead me to saying that is this a net positive for us in approving what I think the only thing to me is that really takes a lot of thought here, and that is the carport. With a certain amount of reticence, I'm going to go and approve the entire application. My concern for the carport is not one that I don't take seriously, but I do think there was an effort to try to do something about compensating for this water in a proper way. So, Madam Chairwoman, I will try to correct that. I will approve this application in its entirety.
Member Mary?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, a little froggy tonight. So I agree with my fellow board members about approving, basically, we have two variances to deal with here, two 80-foot variances, which are substantial. However, I want to talk about why I see the basis relative to the code standards to approve them. I won't repeat everything that my fellow board members have said, just some highlights. So with respect to the shed, it is an 80-foot variance. They have made an effort to improve it somewhat in terms of the size of the variance. It was only a small. I actually have a question. With the new position of the shed, is this variance now to the pocket wetland, or because Brian made a big distinction between the new pocket wetland, not that it's not important, but it's, the really critical wetlands are all the others, and I just don't have the old survey in front of me. I can't remember if the prior position of the shed was actually a variance to some of the other wetlands. Does anyone recall?
Yeah, I think that this is now relative to the pocket wetland.
All right.
Now in its new position, yes.
So again, though, it's a substantial variance. This is a variance to a wetland, which all wetlands we love and are important in the code, but still, I believe that the mitigation, and also it's a small structure. This is a 120 square foot structure. I think it does create a benefit for the applicant as they have no basement, they have no garage. 120 foot shed can create a benefit that based on the totality of this application, even though it's material variance, I do believe it is greater than any detriment that the granting of that variance will create. With respect to the carport, I too listened closely to Brian Frank. I actually, was a little surprised when I asked the question, so the overstructure is as potentially problematic as an impervious surfaces if it were on the ground. And then he did say, he was very specific. Yes, I agree with the detail, especially that Vice Chair Johan has talked about looking at the drainage plan, and the applicant seemed very cognizant of the runoff and has done a lot to really focus on the drainage plan as well. So again, when Brian Frank says to a board, I don't think this is a good candidate for a variance, I take that very, I take that internally and I really think about it. But all in, when I look at the totality of mitigation in this application, which has already been discussed, but the drainage, the upgraded septic system, the removal of 3,000 square feet of bamboo. Did I say the revegetation already? And the removal, actually, of probably what would have been the two most problematic variances for the deck on the water side. I think in balance, both these variances meet the standards of both the variance standards, and then everything else I think meets everything else meets the NRSP standards completely. So I'm approving the application as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you, board members. One more thing.
Yeah, I just want to say we can talk about it. There was a discussion a little bit in the meeting about how the progress of the bamboo removal will be tracked. Because they talked about a 5-year thing. So let's come back. I don't know if there's something that we want to, like covenant or, some sort of plan we want to require. I'm sorry.
7-year plan.
7 years.
A lot of my notes are things that have already been said. I'd like the public to understand how we arrive at these decisions, because these are very substantial variances. And it's important to me that people understand why we approve what we do, when sometimes it seems like an unapprovable application. I think the mitigation being offered in this application is significant. The bamboo area is going to be removed, revegetated, 3,000 square feet. It's going to be a 8,404, 40,000 square foot scenic easement over the eastern portion, which, if I understand correctly, was not a part of the 2016 approval. The driveway is going to be 226 square feet less. The current coverage is going to be 127 feet less. The clearing is 4,960 square feet less. Overall, the clearing will be reduced by 676 square feet. Now there'll be an 800 square feet of revegetation along the top of the bluff. Rather than a lawn, it's going to go to native vegetation. Now, one of the things and the shed concerns that I had at the public hearing were all addressed. But here's what really got me thinking about approving this application. The capacity of the dry wells is for a 2-inch rainfall event. And they noted at the hearing that there are 6 dry wells. Each one has a 42.24 cubic foot capacity. Now, 42.24 cubic foot capacity equals 316 gallons of water. And there's 6 of them. So during a rain event, this is beneficial since the discharge is going to be directed away from the wetlands. So this is a very significant mitigation. So the mitigation has been designed for a storm event, and in my view, will protect water runoff into the wetlands bluffs and is in keeping with providing protection in a sensitive harbor protection overlay district. And this is for a natural resource special permit. I do find that the proposed project will not result in increased runoff, erosion, or adverse impacts to adjacent properties or nearby wetlands. I feel enough stormwater management has been offered in the event of a significant rainfall, and I do feel the applicant has proposed adequate mitigation measures, including an on-site stormwater management, such that the potential impacts have been very sufficiently minimized. So based on the record before us, I do feel the applicant has provided sufficient mitigation to address the potential impacts, and I will be approving the application in its entirety.
You mentioned H-pod, and actually with the revegetation after
Takes
this,
them
this
under.
actually comes down under H-pod where they were exactly at that maximum.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I do think
So-
I think that the bluff side vegetation, which I didn't mention much, but I think that was significant in my decision making. When you go down to the site, we've been there several times over the years, and we can see that that will have a significant protective
Right,
effect.
I
right.
see it right on the survey, all the green places that are there that are all good.
So, council, in terms of what Member Mering brought up about monitoring
Right.
the removal of the bamboo, do we have jurisdiction?
You know,
And also,
I had discussed that with Brian. I wanted to bring it up, whether we should have some kind of report like we have had on some other projects.
like the PAMs.
And first, he did think it was a good idea, and then he changed his mind. He didn't think it was really going to be of any value.
But the one,
I just want to know if.
Enforceable,
and I
yeah,
don't-
yeah.
Yeah, I think
It's not
I mean, I
important.
think that,
We could.
well, so they're gonna be, I don't recall exactly what the plan is.
Charlie, excuse me, can you just point your microphone more towards you? Thank you.
I don't recall, exactly how it's going to
We've done?
be done, yeah.
Well, I have two documents here. I thought I mentioned, maybe I didn't, the land use document from William Bowman,
Mhm.
November X6, it says.
Oh, yeah, because they have to go
Yeah,
back.
2025, and the Charlie and Sons protocol for removal. You have that?
At the hearing, he did say that there would be a long-term process and they would have to continue to remove.
That's
So
7
they've already
years.
presented that as their protocol.
and Brian was very specific concern that he had was about managing the, what's it
Sticking
called?
with it, basically.
No, besides that,
Besides
the sediment control. And I can't remember if that, because
So with that, okay.
he talked a lot about the risk that if they don't properly manage the sediment control fence and the filter, that it can quickly get overwhelmed. And he said it would have a very significant impact potentially onto the lake. So that's kind of, I'm like, how are we specifying that monitoring in the short run while they're doing it? And then also if it's a 7-year continual removal of bamboo and things like that, like how are they reporting on it? How are we tracking it? So yes, it's an issue of jurisdiction, but also the
Council,
things.
is that in our jurisdiction?
If we can.
Well, I feel like they're gonna be, I have to,
I think the problem is who's going to do it? Who's?
Building inspector.
Right.
Well,
well, there was yeah, I mean,
What's in the
it's
conditions
tough
of-
because they're not gonna be getting, I assume they'll be getting a certificate of occupancy before
Right,
this is done.
once it's done.
Yeah, I mean, so they'll already have a CO.
Seems to me after, we only have jurisdiction until they get.
Once the
receive a
CO is issued, yeah, it's kind of,
gonna be
it probably should be a separate, I mean, looking at, it would be easier to handle this outside of the other stuff, the construction and that, because once that's built, it's built. And then they're done. I don't know if this has been done in the past.
I'm not
We're breaking a lot of new
aware
ground
of
here, I
that.
think.
That's
with
why I'm
this.
asking, is
Yeah.
it, can we? Because I don't recall ever really monitoring.
Well, I mean, I guess we could write something in there that will say that, it's part of they'll have to comply with their protocol and provide, they can provide written notice to the board whenever they're going to be working on it. And, and then that way, if we'll have some sort of,
I mean, Mr. Bowman said it was going to be 7 years at least. They're going to be doing stuff two times a week in the spring, and then checking to make sure that the root barriers they put on the northern boundary and inspecting that.
Can we have them notify the
Well, I
planning
think
department
When they're going to do that, or when
yeah,
they're going to
when
start?
segments of the job are getting done, so there's follow-up?
yeah.
Because they've given us a
To be,
protocol.
I think that most likely the main chunk, the big excavation is going to be one, that's when you silt fest.
Right.
To protect, because that's going to be a substantial amount of work. After that, if you read the, bamboo removal area, then they're going to go there every 2 weeks, just
In the spring.
you're just going to, and then they're going to look and they're going to see a little bit of here, a little bit of there. They're going to pick and
Yeah.
it's not like they're going to be excavating truckloads of fill every 2 weeks. It's just more just keeping up before it goes crazy, I think. I don't know, in a practical sense, I think that, it behooves them to make sure that this gets, have.
Mhm.
I mean, we could say that we could maybe, I mean, we could ask for silt fencing to remain during the
Yes,
life of
oh,
the,
absolutely.
I mean, that's in our jurisdiction, just like we do with
Yeah, exactly.
other, limiting fences.
So why don't we do it?
So we have all this, like in the EAF, right, the summary of the mitigation, which is kind of the other recommended projects. It looks like they covered a lot of that. The revegetation plan is still going to have to be done, right?
yeah.
That's a condition of,
Staircase reconstruction. Well, summary of mitigation in the EAF. There is no,
Yeah. And
so they have to follow all the procedures in the summary of mitigation from the EAF Part 3 that we approved.
yeah, I mean, I think for the protection, I mean, I'm not the planner and I'm not an environmental scientist, but in the way I'm reading this, the management, like the real main thing that we're going to be concerned about with, any sort of silt buildup or washing out would be during the big dig.
Right.
And then throughout the rest of it, it's going to be more like light work. I don't think having silt fencing would be as important. And
I mean, I have
later
seen
on.
in the past, over many years, where there's been certain conditions that the planning department be given a week's notice when they're going to do the big dig
Yes.
and be present to make sure everything's in order to proceed. I think we can handle it like that
Yeah.
to safeguard what we're trying to.
And we can maybe we just have
The only way we
updates
can.
throughout the life of the thing, and then they send
But I
us
think they
updates.
can, and I do know we've done that in the past, where we've notified the planning department
Yeah.
when the work is going to commence, and they go there and,
Okay.
make sure
Well,
it's all done.
I'll work
properly.
on something this week, and then I'll send it to you guys, and then
Thank you.
we can
That would be
figure it out.
great.
and I think the rest of it, it's not in
Thank you,
our,
council.
it's not in our jurisdiction, but it will be interesting for us as a board to follow
Yeah.
this remediation of bamboo, because it's such a big issue now, and this is almost like a test case, but it's probably not in our jurisdiction
Yeah.
to require the annual reporting.
And
Okay,
don't
all
forget
right.
condition of approval for a permit for the
Oh, for the
DEC permit for
DEC.
this address. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next decision, which is Patrick Brennan, 48 Agnew Avenue in Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-2-37. Description is to remove walkways, gravel, and pavers to reconstruct exiting decking with proposed additions, construct a new driveway addition, and to allow existing stone patio, LP tanks, unit masonry wall, walkways, and brick patio to remain within setbacks of wetlands, rear yard and front yard line setbacks on a parcel of land within jurisdiction and setbacks of freshwater wetlands. A natural resource special permit, relief sought is a natural resource special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 9 variances are required for this application. Variances of 67 feet, 61.7 feet, 52.9 feet, and 40.4 feet are required from 255-430 of the Town Code to allow the patio to remain 33 feet, LP tanks to remain 38.3 feet, AC unit to remain 47.1 feet, and decking to be constructed 59.6 feet from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required. Variances of 4 feet and 2.75 feet are required from 255-1110 of the Town Code to allow the AC unit to remain 6 feet and LP tanks to remain 7.75 feet from the rear yard lot line setbacks where 10-foot setbacks are required. 1 variance of 5 feet is required from 255-11 of the Town Code to allow the existing patio to remain 9.5 feet from the rear yard lot line where a 15-foot setback is required. 1 variance of 0.2 feet is required from 255-1110 of the Town Code to allow the existing patio to remain 9.4 feet from the side yard lot line where a 9.6-foot setback is required. 1 variance of 7.5 feet is required from 255-1110 of the Town Code to allow the existing patio to remain 12.5 feet from the front yard lot line where a 20-foot setback is required and any other relief necessary. Zoning district is B, residence AE flood zone, elevation 12. Secret class is type 2. Member Berger, you want to begin?
I need a 30-second timeout.
Night.
Okay. Well, this hearing was last week on January 6th, 2026. At the hearing, well, there was a survey, is that up the night of the hearing?
Right.
It's the most recent one.
Is that the one that, the latest one?
Yes, it was revised December 20th.
December.
December 20th.
December, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't have that night, but I know it was up on the screen, but I can't read that. Okay. So the December 20th, 25 is the last updated survey that we had on that. And also, I have a document called the planting plan that was received January 2nd. Basically, it looks like that survey, but it's not an actual survey. It does have the planting plan. Other documents that we had in the file, we have the existing conditions. We have, the planting plan I got. There was a document that I have, I'm not sure who submitted this. It may have been the applicant. It's a survey dated June 20th of 1991 for this property. It's a William Walsh survey. And we have a survey dated December 2002, the latest survey that is in existence for this property at the time of the hearing. There was nothing in between 2002 and now. We have a submission from Wayland Filer Attorney we received on January 2nd also, 2026, written by Thomas Crouch, with building their case for the various things necessary for the approvals. Okay, so this is interesting. 2002, yeah. Okay, so there's a lot of variances on this, and as everyone knows, we have a TAM too. The latest C of O, as just mentioned, was in 2002 on this property, and the survey with the C of O shows that there was a couple of wood walkways and a wood walkway on the western side and a wood deck on the eastern side of this property, and a shed toward the northern side with a little wood step down from the shed. It was a tool shed that was originally put in. So that was all legally done. Since 2002, when this happened, various things occurred over time that ended up with all the variances required that we see on the application today. And what happened was the various things wood walkways got taken out, and a lot of hard surfaces and structures were put in, stone patio in the back, the AC, the LP tanks, stone patio on the east side of it. There was a brick patio, which I think actually had a legal beginning, but then was expanded, and that requires a front yard setback on the brick patio. And they now want to propose an added driveway space on the western border of the property. So basically the applicant, the owner, bought this property in 2017. At that time, he did not get a new C of O or anything, I don't know, got nothing, I guess, as to what transpired between 2002 and 2017 when he purchased it. After he purchased it, he also made some changes to this property, the stone patio in the back, and the LP tank, the AC units, and some additional stonework on the wood landing in the back, on the eastern side, going toward the back beyond where it was originally approved in 2002. Basically, they got a stop work order from code enforcement. And at that time, what they were doing is the deck on the eastern side that had been approved in 2002 was on the survey. There was a whole bunch of stones now that are on the property. You could see them on the survey. And they got a stop work order on that because they were doing this work without a permit. What they say they were doing is replacing the original deck in place in kind to what was there in 2002. But then prior to now, that deck also got extended to the back on the eastern side, back to the landing in front of the accessory structure that's back there. Right now, there's stone there. And I was a little confused because the agent said that they put the stone there after they got the stop work order to do the in-kind replacement of the deck. So there's something odd there. But regardless, the stone is all illegal. The stone on the LP tanks, they all require a lot of variances. The patio to the rear is 67 feet from the variance to be 33 feet from the wetlands. The gas tank and the AC unit, well, let me finish with the rear patio first. The patio requires that variance from the wetlands. That same patio also requires 5.5 foot variance from the rear lot line and a 0.2 variance from the side yard lot line on the western side. So that one patio requires 3 variances. Additionally, the LP tank requires a 61.7 foot variance to be 38 feet from the wetlands. The AC unit requires a 52.9 foot variance to be 47.1 feet from the wetlands. And I don't think they were down for, they were not down for setback requirements, but maybe, I don't know if AC units might be different for that, I don't know. But, okay, so on all of those, none of those items were added with any building permits or approvals of any kind. And additionally, on the northern side where the wetlands are, the original, somewhere along the way, actually it was by the 2002 C of O survey, someone had put a stockade fence in on the town property to the north of the property of this lot, and also cleared between the fence and their property line. But that is not, we don't give variances, it's town property. That is where the applicants are proposing to revegetate though. And that is the only mitigation that they offered for the entire project. Regarding those items that I mentioned, I am going to deny all of them, both the variances and the NRSP for all of those items. And I think I can go through the standards, go through now, or let me go finish with the other items first. But I think they don't meet the standards either for the NRSP. The case made by the agent. Is that me? Excuse me.
I love the song.
It is very soothing.
Turn this
And
thing
the
off
wheel
completely.
goes round and round.
Why is it?
That's a first.
I love that song.
Okay, that's a
I
first.
love that
Can
song.
we sing Kumbaya, please?
I thought it was you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, now that must be up even more. Okay. Yeah, the agent for the applicant, as described in the submission that they gave us on January 2nd, seemed to think that simply because these items were there between 2002 and 2017, plus some that his his client actually did, including that rear patio, that because they were there for a long time, they couldn't possibly be harming anything, and like, it should just be okay that they're there. I don't buy into that argument. As I said, I'm going to deny the variance for all those items that require the dimensional variances in the north side, and I think they also do not contribute anything that deserves an NRSP. As far as the brick patio on the front, on the south side, that requires an 8.5 foot, 7.5 foot variance to remain 12.5 feet from the front yard lot line where 20 is required. Not outrageously big, but I'm going to deny this variance also. I think it's large enough, and prior to that brick patio being there, their driveway was there. So again, this got changed, and now they want to expand the driveway on the western side. They want to add additional parking, but the parking was in that area which the brick patio now encroaches on. I'm denying that variance also. Now, as far as the decking on the east side, they are going to remove all the stonework that was put in illegally, and they want to revert back to the original decking that was on the 2002 survey. They had extended it up to the north side without a permit. However, that part of the project I am going to approve with the NRSP, and there is a variance for the decking. It's a 40.4 foot variance for that decking to be constructed 59.6 feet from the wetland. And that's at the more northerly portion of that decking where it does meet the accessory structure, but I am willing to approve that variance. And the NRSP for that. And what do I have left? I had a concern also about there was some talk too about, and the updated survey corrected it. The planner was concerned about the 5 foot separation on that original decking to the septic tank. The applicants have shortened the decking in their proposal, in their latest submission, to say that they will start at 5 feet away from the septic. And that's accounted for in the survey that's up on the screen. And there was a masonry wall. I don't think the masonry wall had any setback requirement. It was for an NRSP. I too don't see that it looks harmful or is providing any detriment to the neighborhood, so I'm okay with the masonry wall remaining as it is. I had some concern on they never talked about the western side of the house, and it's kind of odd because the 1991 survey I mentioned that we have actually showed concrete on the western side of the house, only in the more front portion of the more southerly side of it. Yet in 2002, that was gone, and the 2002 survey shows a wood walkway, and now it's a stone walkway again. But that wasn't. They weren't doing anything about that. I don't know what's required on that, but I guess I am okay with just leaving that the way it is with no changes on it. And I think that covers all of it. I know the agent for the applicant said they don't think it has any harm if it doesn't change the character of the neighborhood. The planner did state that it does change the character of the neighborhood potentially, and as I said, we don't know in the last 20 years as these things went in how anybody could say they're not causing any harm. We know, there's been much greater rain events, climate change, and weather patterns changing. And so I don't see how anybody could say they were doing no harm at all on this. So I'm denying those variances. I think that patio should be removed. The AC units and LP units can be moved elsewhere on the property. And I think there should be revegetation done where that patio exists today on the north side up to the property line.
Vice Chair Johan?
Yes, thank you. There's two basic problems with the presentation on behalf of the applicant here in terms of mitigation and looking for approvals, I think. One is that really there was mitigation offered to revegetate town land, which is actually off of our lot. So we accept that, but the recommendation, if we accept that with the recommendation of the planner, it's because they'll take on the expense of repairing something that, of course, was done illegally, and it doesn't really have a lot to do with this application, except for the fact that we'll see it get done. It'll be something that'll add a little more buffer, and we can individually decide whether or not we think that's a very useful mitigation to allow a portion or all of this project. The other is that I think the approach from the applicant's representative was to by and large say, if something is in existence for an extended period of time, how much harm can it be? The logic there doesn't work for us on the board very well. We're asked if there's a structure that's put within a certain distance of a property line, a certain distance of an ecological feature, in this case, a wetland, or it could be a dunescape. Has this been put there illegally? Has it been put there beyond, without a building permit, been put beyond any C of O? We go back to the C of O being issued in 2002. There was an effort to show us some aerial photos saying that there must have been a deck back at that, on the north side on the rear, and there must have been a hot tub. We couldn't prove that, and it certainly wasn't in any documentation. So I think that approach was one of saying that, well, if it's there, how much harm is it? Well, I don't think that's really the question here. The question is, if a structure exists on a property that went in without the benefit of a building permit, and if it requires a variance, and in this case, an NRSP as well, then how do we judge it? That will put me much more in line with everything that's been said by my fellow board member here. I have some very differences of opinion, but by and large, the patio to the rear, which has been there for a significant amount of time, nonetheless on the north side, is something in conjunction to the wetlands is far too close. It requires an NRSP. It's something that I personally will agree that I cannot approve that. I'm going to deny that. I'll go through what I'm willing to approve. But I do think that this is a kind of confusing, small piece of property with a lot going on. It is a constrained piece. We know that's about a lot of the lots that we see in many of the subdivisions. This is a smaller lot, and smaller lots are always going to have problems finding ways to put what they want for appurtenances on their property. However, we have to deal with what we're dealing with, and that is whatever the code is given us as guidance. I would say that I'm agreeing that the rear patio I couldn't possibly approve. But the extension, the decking and extension to the shed going back there, I'm willing to approve. There was just an extension from one spot to another. I think there's some mitigation here in terms of what got planted in the rear. I've just already said it's not actually part of our thing, but still the fact that it's being done, that the planner thought that that was significant, okay, some of that for me. I think that the wall at the septic system, similarly, as was mentioned by Member Berger, I don't see that as a major problem. I will vary with her slightly. I don't know the benefit of moving the AC of the gas tanks is significant enough for me to ask them to be moved. I think we go back to the benefit to the applicant versus the benefit to the town. I do think that they, as we've said, all of this is put in the wrong spot, but I'm willing to approve that. And the stone walkway on the west, which was there, I think as well. The one that I think that the rest of these that you were willing to turn down, I think it's the front patio that I have problem with. I do think that there's a concern about changing the character of the neighborhood. When I'm on the site, they are going to increase the parking slightly as well, so that's an ask. The patio, the front patio, the one that's facing
The
brick patio, yeah, it's facing it. That patio is one that we're talking about the roadside patio.
Mhm.
Yeah, the roadside
Yes.
patio. The roadside patio is one that requires a setback. I think that there is a danger of it being up front. Somehow, given on that lot, and I don't have great logic for this except to say that examining it in place as it sits, I'm willing to approve that. And so, in short, I know this is all confusing, that front patio, the sideline walkway going back, the gas tank and the AC, and the western walkway, which, was that actually cited for us as a
It
variance?
wasn't, and that's why, and like I said, it was there, it seems to be partially there in 1991
Yeah,
on the survey that's in the record.
Which one are you talking about?
Yeah.
This is the west
The
side?
west
Yeah,
side.
right.
So, yeah, that I'm just forgetting about.
so it's sort of in summation, and those are the ones I'm willing to approve, but in summation, you have a small lot with a lot going on and not much opportunity to offer us mitigation. The only thing we can look for is removal, because there's very little that can be done here. And what was brought up at the meeting, and then one of the board members said, what additionally can be offered for mitigation? I think the planner and the presenter said there's not a lot you can do. And I think when you see the lot, that's true. There's not a lot we can do. We can't ask for a lot more in terms of vegetation. So they're going to revegetate a parcel that's off their land as part of a give back here to help us. I'm going to go so far as to say those ones I'm willing to approve. Of course, the patio in the rear, I'm not. And I think, I just think that this was a really confusing little lot with a lot to be asked for, with not much justification for it and very little mitigation. So is that confusing enough?
Yeah,
Member Merritt?
we're going to go back through all of them. So
Yeah, we are.
I'm not, yeah.
So maybe at the end, when you're done, you can be specific about what exactly you're
We're going to go,
approving and what you're denying.
I'm just going to go through and pull the board. on
Right,
each
exactly.
one.
Just poll the board. Member Mary?
Okay. So just sort of looking at I want to just start looking at the broader context of this lot. So this is a 7,500 square foot lot in a B residence zone. It's in ditch plains. It abuts meaningful and important wetlands based on the TAM and the testimony of the planner. The lot is already kind of very maxed out, right? It's at maximum building coverage. It's 15% from total allowable max coverage. It's 100% cleared. I'm not talking about the part that's even off the property. And it, not that there's an excess to it, but it's a septic system that is not upgraded. So we have a lot that is already, I don't know what to say, sort of stressed and kind of at a, so let me just back. It's pretty much maxed out. There's and now there's a discussion about adding more things, getting closer to the wetlands, getting closer to setbacks. So that's just a context I wanted to bring relative to my deliberation. Let me start with. I'll take them one at a time. I'm going to start with the things that I will approve. I also agree with my fellow board members with respect to the right side, or sorry, the east side of the house. I am approving the NRSP to redo what was existing decking in place and in kind, and allowing also at the NRSP for the proposed extension running north, extending that pre-existing deck up to the accessory structure. It's decking, it's not a completely impervious surface. It meets side yard setbacks. Obviously, it extends to a pretty significant accessory structure that's been in place. So I don't think that the extension, I don't see it as creating some sort of material change in the environmental conditions or even the impact on the wetlands. So that rebuilding and extension of the deck on the east, in the east side yard, I approve. Let me move now to the rear of the property. And looking at first at the stone patio, and by the way, everything at the stone patio and the gas tanks, these are things that were done without the benefit of permits. We have an applicant who bought a property choosing not to get an updated, it wasn't required, but still chose to not get an updated CO and did things also, other things without the benefit of permits. The stone patio does not, as I see it, meet the variance or the NRSP standards. And it needs two types of variances. It needs a significant wetland setback, a substantial wetland setback, and it also does not meet rear yard setbacks. I think that there is if the applicant seeks the benefit of some additional patio in the rear, there are definitely designs here that could meet the rear yard setback and could also reduce the variance required. This is a very significant, it's a large structure. I can't remember the square footage of it, and it's completely impervious. And so I'm denied, it doesn't meet the NRSP standards or the variance standards as I see it. And I'm going to talk about the front patio as well with respect to the standards and the issue of character. Again, this is a very dense neighborhood. There are probably 300 lots in Ditch Plains that are really all very substandard, pre-existing substandard to the zone minimum. And therefore, when it gets to things like setbacks, rear yard, front yard, we don't have side yard issues here, holding the setbacks to or very close to their requirements is very important, I believe, to sustaining the character of this neighborhood and not causing detriment to neighbors. So the stone patio, I'm denying. The gas tank and the AC also put in without the benefit. I know there's small things, but they need significant wetland setbacks. They do need relief from the side yard setback. They don't meet setbacks. And the planner said it, I see it also as such. There are many positions on this lot. It's not for me to decide which ones or redesign it, where the benefit of having those things could be achieved and meet the standards and the setbacks. And then that takes me to the front brick patio, as I just talked about, in my view, to meet the character standard and protect the neighbors and I do not see any case that was really made to support a 38% or 35% variance or relief for a brick patio in the front, especially when it also means that you're going to add more parking. So it does, again, there is room for brick patio or patio in the front that can create a benefit, but it's entirely doable by meeting the front yard setback. So I am denying the brick patio as well in this application.
Thank you. Member Arandia.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I just wanted to take the opportunity, similarly to my fellow colleagues here, to talk in general about the property as an overall view. So recognizing, again, small property in an area that is already full of small properties and everything does have constraints on it, with recognizing that we want to make sure that the neighborhood maintains its character. And that, to me, is an important quality of any application, that we recognize what the neighborhood is. You've made this purchase in this area because you liked it. So don't come in to try and change it all. With that said, the property in this particular property is of particular significance because of the wetlands, and they're the highest form of purity quality of freshwater wetlands in the area. These wetlands are also a key component in the Dutch Plains watershed and provide essential habitat for both plants and animals. These are key elements to everything in East Hampton Town. These are important elements to the quality of life here. These are important elements to why we live here. And these are also important elements as to how we're going to maintain the ecosystem into the future. So with that said, the structures on this particular application are seeking relief for a mix of reconstruction and existing elements, all built without the proper permits. A point that's been brought up by all of my colleagues. And there's been no issuance of a new CO since 2002. That being the case, I believe it's incumbent on the applicant to have investigated what had happened in 2002 and what had happened since 2002 before coming to us with an application that is requesting many variances on an already very constricted property. So while some of these variance requests are modest, the overall relief sought is for multiple variance requests, as I say, on a very constrained property with a very close proximity to the wetlands. For those reasons, and many of the other specific reasons that have been shared by my colleagues, I do not recommend the approval of this application for variances or NRSP.
Thank you. We all know that a CO runs with the land, not the owner. But routinely, the ZBA considers factual content. Even though some of these structures existed at the time of the last CO in 2002, the absence of an updated CO at the time of purchase does not really legalize structures automatically. So this application brought to light pre-existing conditions on the property that would have never even, they would have remained unaddressed. So now we're obviously trying to find an appropriate remedy in the terms of the town code to bring this property into compliance. The only thing I'm going to make this simple for council. The only thing I'm going to deny on this application is the stone patio at the north end of the property. It's a substantial variance and will add to impermeable surfaces that are close to wetlands. Applicants have not, as of the public hearing, offered any real mitigation to offset those impacts. And given the extent of the wetlands on the property and the small lot size, I feel that the parcel does not contain sufficient buildable area to support the stone patio without increasing impacts to protected wetlands, which the code seeks to avoid, especially when no real mitigation has been offered. I do not have a problem with the driveway extension. It's within, and I don't have a problem with the masonry wall. I do feel the existing stockade fence, however, should be relocated onto the applicant's property as mitigating, allowing its continued existence. It will help prevent encroachment on the town-owned property. But for the purposes of the record, I'm just going to be denying the stone patio on the stone patio on the north side. Council?
Yeah, so,
Now.
One at a time.
all right,
Okay.
so Denise, you had denied everything
I'm approving everything but the
except for
stone patio.
and that this is the stone patio.
Correct. I'm just denying that.
Okay,
That's
so
3 of the variances.
Correct.
Yeah.
Jose was a denial, Terry, you,
Stone patio?
well,
Deny.
Wait, we're taking them one at a
Yeah,
time
what do you
here?
do?
well, let's just go.
Let him just control the.
Let me just go through what's listed on the, so we have, the first one is NRSP and 9 variances. Variance 67 to allow the patio to remain 33 feet, which, that's from the wetland.
That's from the wetland.
Yep. And so we'll just do that variance first. So that's the patio to remain 33.
The brick, the stone one.
In the rear.
Yeah, it just says patio remain 33 from the wetlands.
Yeah, that's the one up there.
So that's gotta be,
That's the rear
That's the one
patio.
at the, yep,
yeah, that's 33. Okay, so the stone patio, so that's, everyone denied that,
I think
correct?
everyone's
Yes.
denying that.
Everyone denied the
Okay,
wetland setback
denied.
variance.
5, okay.
Were
For
you
the-
just
for the
talking
wetland,
about the
okay.
wetland there? I mean, denying that patio is,
Well, there's three
There's
variants.
two variances for it, so I'm just gonna go through each one.
Yeah, he's just gonna
Yeah,
deny
okay,
it. He knows
okay.
the whole board wants to deny them.
I know, we'll get to it, but there's just, because it's just gonna be very confusing to write it out, so. And then I got a 38.3 for the LP and AC units to remain 47.1 feet. So that's from the wetlands. So that's for the gas tanks of the LP.
uh-huh.
So are those,
Why don't you just poll
yes,
us? Right.
so we got AC slash
Mhm.
propane tanks.
So let's just poll the board.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
just,
Yep,
Jane?
so I denied
All right,
that
just, you
variance.
denied. Terry?
Deny.
Ed?
LP and AC.
I approved.
I approve.
Tonight,
Okay.
so.
So you have
that
3
is
denials for that.
9, 3, 0, or 3, 3, 2, sorry. Mm. Okay, and then I have decking to be constructed 59.6 from the wetlands. So that's the decking is, yeah,
Going up.
On the
the-
east.
Yeah, on the east,
Yes,
going up to
on
the.
the east, going to the
accessory.
accessory structure.
Right.
Jane?
Approved.
Terry?
Approved.
I approved.
approve.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you denied it.
I,
You denied
I
everything.
thought you
Oh,
denied it.
I did deny it, yes,
I,
She
approve
can
that.
change his-
You
the
approved
4-1.
yes.
4-1.
4-1 to approve.
Right.
Okay. Okay, and then we, variances of 4 feet and 2.75 feet for the, so it's the LP and the
The LP,
and the AC condenser, so
Oh, the
they're
real-
slightly different variances, but the same, you know.
yeah, but it's a 3-2, I think, for,
But those, yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
it's the same,
Right,
same split.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I denied
That's the
those.
4 foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Those
did
are the lot
have, they
line.
did have dimension.
Lot line
Yeah.
setback.
That's from the lot line, yeah, that's from the rear lot line. I
Okay.
just want to,
That was a
And
3D.
And then I have a variance of 5.5 to allow the existing patio to remain 9.5 in the rear yard lot line.
Yeah.
No,
that's-
no, it's
Again,
not.
denied.
Stone.
No, it's the rear
Sorry,
patio.
sorry,
the
Charlie.
same one.
Somewhat, yeah.
Charlie's reading the
That's the one we
rear
denied.
patio
You're down next
setback.
to
The rear patio.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the setback for the rear, but that's denied for the wetlands anyway, so I just read.
Yeah, that's
Right.
unanimous
So
denial.
It's
everybody
5-0.
denying that,
Everybody
so-
denied
Yes.
that.
That one's denied.
5 denial. Okay.
And then one variance of 0.2 is required
That's for that rear one also.
to
the-
remain.
Side yard lot line.
Yeah, oh, because that's yeah.
Right,
So-
so that's
So
5.
that's a 5D also.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's the same existing patio.
Right.
Yeah, it's from the side yard.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think it's really not doing it. And then one variance of 7.5, changing from the patio to remain 12.5 feet from the front yard lot line.
Right.
So that's this,
Right,
that brick
Brick.
patio.
That one,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay, I denied that.
I denied that.
I approve that.
I approved it.
I denied it.
Okay, so 3,
So 3-2 to deny.
9. And that's. Okay, and so those are all the variances and everything. And then,
Well, the NRSP.
but then there's the NRSP stuff. So there's like the driveway.
I
Yep.
approve that.
I approved
I'm
that.
okay with that.
Yeah.
Are we all okay with that? No,
No.
Jose denied it.
Jose
Okay.
denied it.
So
Denied
it's
even the
4-1 to
driveway? Okay.
approve.
Okay, 4-1 to approve driveway. And then there was like that masonry wall, but
Yeah, we're good. I approved that.
I'm okay with the masonry.
Yeah.
So I think it's a 4-1. It's
yeah,
a 4-1
that'd be the
to.
same thing.
to
So
approve.
anything, basically all this, if there's something that doesn't need a variance, but just an NRSP, it would be okay.
Right. Approved.
I think that's the only stuff.
That's the only stuff.
And then,
All that needed an NRSP, yeah.
yeah, aside from,
Right.
yeah, that'd be, yeah.
And what about the stockade fence? Can we have that moved onto the applicant's property?
Well, it's not our call to
I mean, that's
legalize
what
it,
I'm
right?
asking council.
They offered it.
But they
That was
did
one of the-
offer to do it.
Right. I mean, it's not legal where it is, so
Yeah,
the town has
That's how I
to.
feel.
yeah,
And they
it's,
did say he would.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I would
that was
suggest,
part of
I mean,
their
it's a,
mitigation
Yeah,
offer,
but I don't
actually. I don't know.
I mean,
Well, they could put on their property, but they still need to get it legalized depending on the height, right?
I mean,
yeah, I don't know what the height is. If it's 6 feet, it's fine.
It says
Yeah, it is.
deer fence on some.
Yeah.
the things that were approved, what was approved by majority by board members?
So the only things that are
Side.
approved are the decking on the east, that was 4-1.
Right.
And then the driveway and the masonry wall.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I would make the case that my approvals on the things I did approve are conditioned on on the movement of the stockade fence and the re-veg, that of the illegal clearing.
Okay, so.
So I can do it, I can say it that way, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I figured that whatever approvals are given are the full mitigation is required. That, I mean, there's only very limited mitigation anyway. It's just there's a project limiting fence and the re-veg.
I'd like
Okay.
re-veg where the patio's going to be gone.
That's different. They didn't offer that.
They don't have to offer it,
Oh,
right? They don't have to.
well, we didn't,
want
did we
re-veg.
bring it up at the,
Well, they were looking to approve it, so there was no room to re-veg anything. I don't know.
yeah,
okay, what, are we good, council?
Yeah. Oh, the only thing I'm going to put on the record is since the town, I brought this up to the chair earlier.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Town owns that lot to the north where they're going to be revegetating. So another condition that I think should be asked for is they would need to provide an indemnity to the town to allow their workers to go onto town property and do work. An indemnity to the town, and then also proof of insurance that they have sufficient, the contractor, whoever's doing it, has proper insurance to cover any potential issues that could arise during, just like any other activity that happens for town on town properties. So that's what I would suggest.
I agree. I like that condition.
and also that re-veg was conditioned on approval, right, by
Yeah.
the planners, okay.
Okay, all right. I think I got this, but I will send it out to you, to everyone to double check. Thank you.
Thank you, council. That was complicated. Okay, the next one is Julian Mazursky III, 44 Beach Avenue, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-175-3-10. Description is to construct 966 square foot two-story residence with a 100 square foot second story balcony, entry steps, walkway, driveway, dry wells, and new sanitary system on a parcel of land containing wetlands, beach vegetation, and which is proposed outside of the town's pyramid regulations. Relief sought is a natural resource special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 6 variances are required for this application. Variances of 97.2 feet and 91.5 feet are required from 255-430C of the town code to construct the residence, the proposed residence, 2.8 feet and a second story balcony, 8.5 feet from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required. One variance of 112.9 feet from 255-430B of the town code is required to construct a new sanitary system 37.1 feet from freshwater wetlands where a 150-foot setback is required. One variance of 49.5 feet is required from 255-430D of the town code is required to allow clearing 0.5 feet from the edge of wetlands where a 50-foot setback is required. Variances of approximately 12.48 feet and 12.32 are required from 255-1172D of the town code to allow the residence to be constructed outside of the town's pyramid regulations 12.48 feet along the southern property line and 12.32 feet along the northern property lines and any other relief necessary. Zoning district is a B residence, AE flood zone, elevation 10. Secret class is type 2. Member Mehring, would you like to begin?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So we heard this application at a public hearing just last week on January 6, 2026. I do want to note just a slight discrepancy with respect to the setback. The notice says the septic is 37.1 foot setback, and the survey, it says 36.5. It's not substantial, but I just did want to notice I'm going to speak about it at the 36.5 based on the survey. Also, there was a little bit of a discrepancy. We didn't really nail this down. In the TAM and in the notice, this talks about a 966 square foot house. There is a portion of the TAM that talks about it as a 996 square foot house. Again, I'm going to be referring to this and taking 966 as the correct GFA number. Okay. The applicant was represented by attorney Richard Whalen of Whalen Filer, one member of the public, Ms. Laura Mitchell, a 40-plus year resident, neighbor directly across from this property, from the applicant's property, appeared before us to offer comments to the record. In particular, was concerned about the potential impact on her light and air because of the pyramid issues, and also concerned about potential disturbance to the road during construction. These are issues we as board members, of course, are considering, and we did vet in the decision making. During the hearing and for the deliberation here, we're working off of that latest survey dated May 9th, 2025 from Wallbridge Surveyors. Also in the record were the most recent set of architectural plans for a flat roof, 966 square foot, 2-story residence raised on pilings to meet the AE10 flood zone regulations. I note that the parcel owner and applicant is also the registered architect of the house plans. The plans, there are a few sets of plans in the record. The most current ones are dated May 2, 2025, and I invoke that because this is the set of plans I reviewed very closely as an element of this application and my basis of deliberation and decision making. Also of note, there are 2 narrative documents submitted that have been submitted into the record, authored by Jeffrey Freierreich. The first one was dated July 2023. The second one was dated to reflect the changes that had been made to this application over time, and that one importantly is dated June 13th, 2025. Again, I reviewed these very closely and factored the contents of this narrative into my deliberation. And then, of course, we had the updated TAM from Tyler Borsak that is also, of course, foundational to the review of the application. The applicant's family, we know, owned this parcel in excess of half a century prior to the adoption. They bought it prior to the adoption of all natural resources and wetland protection codes. As they stated at the hearing, the property was purchased for an investment. It was not made clear in the record, and it's not necessarily salient to our decision about why the owners chose not to develop the parcel for many years and many decades. But again, it's not something I'm taking into account here. There are 4 key, very significant constraints and characteristics to this lot that set a legitimate stage for consideration of relief requests. First, the small size, the very small size of the lot, putting it in probably the smallest quintile of lots across Beach Hampton at 5,956 square feet, or 0.137 acres. This is a pre-existing non-conforming lot that's substandard to the B residence, 70% substandard to the B residence minimum. It was established in the record that only one lot on the entire Beach Ave Street conforms to lot minimums, and that there are I think it was also confirmed that there are 14 lots on the road that are very particularly undersized, less than 0.17 acres. The factor number 2, the narrowness of the lot, we discussed this a lot. This is a 40-foot wide lot compared with the 110-foot required. It was noted by the applicant's agent that this is one of 10 of the 41 lots of Beach Ave that to be only 40 feet wide. The third element is this lot is in an AE10 flood zone, so base floor elevation needs to be 12 feet, and that adds to the potential pyramid compliance pressures faced by the applicant. And fourth, the wetlands consume 49+% of this parcel, so the area of the lots, excluding from the wetlands, is only 3,006 square feet. Though we don't have the exact wetland percentage of other lots on Beach Ave in the record, we do know from data submitted into the record that both the applicant and the planning department that there are a number of lots, especially on the west side of the road, that are impacted and constrained by wetlands. We have documented, there are documented in the record, a number of applications where wetland setback variances were required, requested, and granted. Okay, so as board members, as I understand it, we have two very important factors to grapple with. One, there was a board denial via determination in 2022 of a prior proposed development application that was for a 1,220 square foot GFA, and that asked also for substantial pyramid relief, and would have required a lot of variances. Some of at the time, the elements were actually in the wetlands, and the other variances that were required at the time were basically less, putting everything less than, well, except the septic system, 2 feet from the wetlands. And also that application slightly exceeded building coverage. So in my deliberation, of course, I need to consider that prior denial and consider the need for deference to prior board decisions, while also understanding and considering if the new application before us has transformed in a way that is substantially different or improved from the prior application to warrant a different type of decision. In addition, I'm also looking at this second application that's in front of us. They made tweaks to the application from when they submitted in 2023. They reduced the GFA again, and they improved one of the pyramid relief requests. And then the second big issue is we have a planning department analysis presented in the TAM and at the public hearing that raises multiple very substantial concerns about the currently proposed development relative to the required protection of natural resources. And to be more specific, the planning department, in a way we don't generally see, in this application expressed its definitive conclusion and recommendation to the board that this application should be denied. I don't want to belabor it, but it is important just to cite a couple of quotes from the TAM.
It's in the record.
Okay. Okay. I mean, again, so I won't read it.
No, I mean.
I know sometimes, no, I don't have to, but, basically, I'll just refer people to, what was presented. It's in the record. The Tyler Borsek referred to it as simply an untenable level of development close to sensitive wetlands that will have substantial negative impact on the wetlands. And he goes on, not just in the construction, but ongoing and for time to go. So the question all in that I am focused on is, do I have enough expertise to override or dismiss that, very specific recommendation and analysis? Now I'll just put the remainder of my comments directly in the context of the variance standards of 255-850D, both 1A and B, and also 3A through E. I won't recite them because we know them and I don't want to take the time, and also putting my comments in context of the NRSP standards 255-551D, 255-540K, and that has to do with the preservation, obviously, of the natural resources. And then did I also say 255-540K and A? So according to the table in the TAM on page 2 through 3, though the applicant modulated GFA between the denied application and the current application by, I think, 220 square feet, that's an important thing. However, even with the modification, this current applicant, the variance requests remain profoundly substantial and not that different from that denied application. With respect to the wetland setbacks, substantiality of the wetland setbacks, here are my points. Of the 4 wetland setback variances requested for this new development, all are between 91.5% to 99% variances. The setback of the residence structure to the wetlands is still exceptionally small margin, 2.8 feet at the closest point, and I believe 8.5 feet at the other end corner of the rear facade structure of the house. Second, the proposed clearing, and by the way, those are slightly better, but they're still very, very, very significant. The second proposed clearing setback compared to the denied application is still virtually nil at 6 inches. The septic system, while considered in the best location, also still requires a 76% variance to the wetlands. This means that we cannot even achieve what we generally think of as the absolute bare minimum 10-foot buffer to wetlands. In addition to the substantiality, the narrative provided, the 2 narratives provided by the applicant were very interesting, and they cited 8 different decisions from the ZBA made, I think, between 2002 and present for other houses on Beach Avenue. And they showed us all the wetland setback variances, many of which were substantial, but they were not nearly as substantial as this. They ranged between about 25 feet and 52 feet variances. So nothing in the record shows that this board approved a structure to be built less than 10 feet from significant wetlands. And then with respect to the substantiality of the pyramid requests, the dimensional number on the north side was, the pyramid relief was scaled back by 3.43 feet. The other one actually remained the same over the course of this application. They are better. However, looking at the pyramid diagrams in the architectural plans dated 5/2/2025, pages A8 and 9, the material majority of the volume and cubic feet of the second story is outside the pyramid code, which gets to the issue of massing. I'm not singularly definitive on denying pyramid variances, but granting relief for, this is basically quotes the TAM, granting dimensional relief such as pyramid violations are better justified when they are created and the relief allows for meaningful improvement of natural resources setbacks. So because of the substantiality and the unprecedented nature of the wetland setback, I find this application does not meet the variance standards as set forth in 255-850D1A, and then 3A, 3C, and 3D, and that it does not meet the general special permit or NRSP standards set forth in 255-551, in that based on the TAM and the extreme nature of the variances, the structures will potentially diminish, pollute, degrade, or place in peril the protected natural feature, Finally, I just want to address the other key variance standard with respect to 255-850D1B, which talks about minimum variance necessary, as well as NRSP standard 255-551D2, which requires that there are no, quote, alternative designs entailing smaller buildings or structures, et cetera. Very interesting part of Mr. Whalen's case supporting the application is he took us through design requirements in the code as outlined in 255-1167A. And though it does say that minimum bedroom size is 70 square feet, that a two-person bedroom occupancy requires 100 square feet of space, that the other room type is required. It does not say that, oh, and it also does say that if desired, 2 bedrooms shall always be permitted. But that code does not say that two-person 100-foot bedrooms are required. And it doesn't say that it doesn't put minimum sizes for things like kitchens and that other room. So it's a small house. The applicant defines it as bare bones. I do not want to deny the applicant the right that is theirs to develop this property. It is a legally developable property. However, do not find, even with the work that Mr. Whalen did around this design code, did not prove, and also based on the testimony of our planner, do not think that they met the burden of meeting the hurdle that there are not yet other alternate smaller designs that could improve the setbacks somewhat. And then finally, we didn't discuss it, but the septic system was designed by the applicant. We didn't really question it, but they also did not provide any discussion about why that was the only design required and were there other designs that could have allowed the house to be moved further forward. So I find that the standard can't be met, and I am denying this application in full.
Thank you.
Sorry to
Member
go
Berger?
on.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
sorry, it's a tough.
Okay. I'm basing, well, yes, see, Rick Whalen ran the town code on us about minimums and that this couldn't possibly be made any smaller or we'd be taking the right to build away. However, as Tyler, the planner, got on and refuted that statement. It refutes it in the TAM, and as Member Meering said, the counts on the numbers as Rick Whalen had estimated the size of these things. He did not go to the smallest amount for the town code, and Tyler did remind us that 600 feet is the minimum lot size that they could have, and that both
Minimum house size.
house size. And yes, looking at the plans on page A4, the 2 bedrooms could be made smaller. They were based on the 2-person bedroom, 2 bedrooms for the house. And as already stated, the kitchen, looking at that on page A3, I think it was, the great room could be made smaller. The kitchen could be made smaller and still have a buildable house. And so, that we're certainly not taking away the right to build. Tyler did reference one other house in the neighborhood, or not Beach Avenue, but on Ocean Lane, that was 600 square foot house, 2-story. I too have nothing, well, we're not big fans of pyramids, but we know on Beach Lane that almost any house, these small lots, is going to have some kind of pyramid, perhaps. And we have granted them when they were necessary. A couple of things in the TAM too about everything I have to say is out of TAM basically. the cut and fill estimates for getting this property in, and that the grading that they would have to do for the sanitary, there's no real documentation on how that was going to be performed. This house was, it did state in Mr. Fryrich's document, I guess, that this is a modular house they were going to put in. The neighbor across the street did have concerns about how they're going to do that, but, you know, these people that are putting in modular houses could do that, I guess, if they can. But again, the basic thing is that the 600, you know, the size of the house and the rooms. And as already stated, there is no way we can get a decent wetland buffer out of this regardless. And there would be allowances made for pyramid and other setbacks. And I think the applicant made a decent attempt at this, but can do even better on this. I don't think it meets the variance standards. You don't want me to read out of the TAM.
I mean, it's in the
It still
record.
could be reduced in the footprint size. I mean, there is so
What do you
much.
think?
Well, like, I think Tyler, like, really nailed this on the difficulties of this property, and that it could still be smaller, could be done. But not at this level, that there's still a lot more, not a lot more, but still more that can be done to reduce the footprint of the house. So I am denying this application also.
Vice Chair?
Okay, a couple of things. Of course, it's a small lot, and we've had this in front of us. At least I was part of a decision earlier that we denied a 1,200 square foot house because we can visit a lot of lots in town. It's hard to find one that's more encumbered by wetlands and other restrictions here. This is a difficult lot to build on, and we know that a landowner has a right to build there, so we're going to all work together, them and us, to find a solution on how they can build a house that most fits the needs of the town. I'm going to go over a few things, though. One is that the owner does inherit the site condition. So there was a conversation of the wetlands increasing from the time they bought it. This is a regular pattern throughout the town as development happens. Other lots find that their margins of wetlands change. It's unfortunate, but it's a fact, it's a reality, and we have to deal with that in here. Perhaps if they had built 40 years ago, they'd be somehow being encroached by wetlands and we wouldn't be having this discussion, but they are trying to build now. And that's a reality they have to deal with. I think that all arguments that we used to defending the proposed structure were good ones by Mr. Whalen. He made points about the town code, minimum living size, and the ways in which this house could be constructed. I think those were good arguments. I think going through some other conditions other than the house, the location of the septic, the driveway, any of these conditions, the entire site obviously is requiring an NRSP, are difficult, if not nearly impossible, relative to wetland setbacks. We know that going in. We also know the size of the lot. Another factor here that weighs heavily on what we're going to have to decide about this was the fact that we're going to be required to come up to AE 10 standards. And so now we're dealing with first floor elevation at 12 foot. Mr. Whalen did point out that the surrounding topography varied between 5 and 7 feet. So in theory, certainly something like 3 foot higher than it would have to be if a house was built based on AE requirements. That's true. I think an important factor for me in this is to ask this question. How big is the footprint of the house as proposed? It's 548 square feet. When we talk about making a smaller house, therefore, we're not talking about changing any of the setbacks significantly because it's already mentioned by the board members that that's really not possible. A 548 square foot footprint, if we were to do a one-story house, that footprint would have to be enlarged to do a minimum 600 square foot house. So we are at the minimum that can be put on this site, minimum footprint that can be put on this site, and still do a buildable house. It would actually have to go up a little bit, I think, if we did one floor. The second floor then becomes an issue here. We have these pyramid variances to deal with, where the board is very concerned about pyramid variances. We frown upon approving them. We very often don't allow them unless there are unique conditions or conditions that just can't be helped. One of the things that's led to us having to deal with pyramids, though, is houses being built to FEMA requirements, heights. We've seen that on a number of other locations where significant pyramid variances have been allowed by us because there is almost no choice building the house based on what FEMA has asked for here. When I look at this site, I ask myself a couple of other questions. It's easy to say for us, let's make it smaller. How are we making it smaller? We're not changing the footprint. We're not going to get any more distance from the wetlands. That's how I see it. So we're going to decrease the size of the second floor. We're going to decrease the size of the bedrooms on the second floor, as was pointed out by other board members, and therefore we're going to take 20 square foot off of each of them, and we're going to decrease the size of that floor. How does that benefit the town, the environment, and the neighborhood? I think it benefits the neighborhood by decreasing the pyramid variance slightly, not that significantly, because we still have a second floor. The town has encouraged in the past that when we have these sensitive lots, rather than sprawl, to build up. Now, they don't ask us to build up and incur these large pyramid variances, but now we're on a site that 2 years ago when we denied this, I thought, except for the fact that they have a legal right to build, it's an unbuildable lot. It's so difficult to build here. But it is a buildable lot, and we have to face up to that. I agree exactly with the arguments from the town on this. I think they're right about wanting to make it smaller. I think they're right when they talk about the impact on the environment. I think we have to consider all the implications of another house in this neighborhood being juxtaposed so directly to the wetlands. But I ask myself, what are the options? The options of making a smaller footprint don't exist. It'll be a larger footprint if it's one story. So it comes down to, am I willing to approve this based on allowing these significant pyramid variances? Yeah, I don't like them. I don't like them at all. But I'm wondering where we go from here. We send it back. They come back with a smaller house with a larger footprint. Are we going to be happy that we've made a larger footprint? I don't know, but we'd have to consider that. The volume, the GPA or the GFA would be decreased, and GFA is always a factor in our decision making. I'm not sure there's a lot else that can be done here. I'm really not. The night of the hearing, sitting in this, looking at this the first time, this is a denial for me. But the more I look at it, the more I look at the options that are available to the owner. I don't think that talking about the size of the variances is really a factor here, because on this lot, the size of the setbacks and the effect of the NRSP. I think that's going to happen with anything that goes on this lot. At some point, something's going to will be allowed to be built here. And I'm afraid that the next take on this is even a larger footprint. So reluctantly, I'm leaning towards approving this. Why? I mean, it's too big a house on too small a lot. But I don't know where the options are. I do think it was significant to say it would be a modular, because I think collateral damage on these sensitive sites is always a concern for us building protocols, how we're approaching a job, what angle are we taking to complete the construction. The modular in a difficult spot, it was pointed out by a neighbor, could be placed in there. I think there's a minimum amount of damage there. So now we have an applicant who's come to us with a minimum footprint, a modular home, and they're asking, basically, for me, they're asking whether or not it can live with the pyramid variances. Would I like to see a smaller house? I would. Do I think there's much improvement possible by asking them to come back with a new? I'm not sure there is. Therefore, I'm going to approve this. Not liking it. I don't like building on this lot. I didn't like it last time. I don't like it this time. But I'm not sure what else we can ask of them except to take these rooms on the second floor, make them smaller, and then I ask myself, what is the overall impact, the environment, and the neighborhood? How much good have we achieved? I don't think it's significant enough to send them back for another take on this. So having said all of that, I am going to approve this application, somewhat reluctantly because I'm sensitive to the lot, but I also think the realities of what it's going to take to build a house here are evident to me.
Thank you. Member Arandia?
Well, this is my second evaluation on a property, and luckily I've had the opportunity to be challenged with two very challenging applications before us on my first go-around.
Baptism by fire.
Yes, I don't want to become known as Jose the Denier, but there is a lot for this particular parcel property that is very, very, very challenging. I hear what my colleagues have said, and in particular, the vice chair here has said something that made a lot of sense to me this evening, but I still believe that there is an opportunity to squeeze a little bit more. I say that from having experience with smaller homes in previous life. So with that being said, apart from the actual GFA of the structure, I also like to point out the fact that from the 2022 denial to the 2024 application, there is very little change, practically none, and I don't see that as a real effort to come back to us with an improvement. That being said, you know, in this very encumbered parcel, the requested variances are extensive, and there really has been no mediation proposed. We at the board, in my short time here, see that everyone is very cognizant of what can be done, what can't be done, and how to balance it out. Nobody here wants to be Jose the Denier, but we want to find out how to balance things out. And with the no mediation that has been presented, I find myself yet at another difficult decision that is currently a denial. Let me just continue on a couple of other points. The reduced GFA can be further, the GFA can be further reduced to more closely adhere to the parcel parameters. Again, I say that from experience. The NRSP variances is very significant in a freshwater wetland. A key hot button for me is the wetlands, and this variance could potentially harm the neighborhood water quality, which, having seen what the town has experienced in putting water mains in many areas of town to have potable water for all of our residents, considering the impact that wells have had from construction and other methods and other measures that have harmed neighborhood water quality. This is especially important because it takes into account that the request is for almost 100% relief. I think 100% relief is a very impactful element. We're only a half-foot clearance to the requested. A half-foot clearance is requested instead of a 50-foot clearance. That's non-existent to me. And this type of requested clearance could significantly have an effect on the cumulative impact of the sanitary effluent. Lastly, the relief from the town's pyramid regulations, not negotiations, the relief from the town's pyramid regulations, again, is 100% relief from both the southerly and northerly property lines. With these 100% relief requests, I am inclined to deny this application.
Thank you. I want to begin by saying I have complete respect for the presentation that Mr. Whalen gave us the night of the public hearing. But he is before us for a natural resource special permit and very substantial variances. And as a board, we are charged every week, not just with this application, with meeting those standards. And we base our approvals or denials on whether or not they meet those standards. And in this case, they don't meet one standard. The proposed construction of a 966 square foot two-story residence on a 5,959 square foot lot requires substantial and multiple variances, including variances of 97.2 feet, 91.5 feet, where 100 feet is required by the town code. The magnitude and number of requested variances demonstrate that the proposal is not in compliance with the dimensional requirements of the town code and represents a very significant overdevelopment of this parcel. The lot is significantly constrained by natural resources. The proposed scale of the residence will result in encroachment into required natural resource buffers and setbacks contrary to the intent of the code, which is to protect wetlands and other environmentally sensitive areas. The town code also addresses that the applicant has not demonstrated that the requested variances are the minimum necessary to afford reasonable use of the property. The proposed two-story structure in both height and footprint exacerbates the nonconformities and intensifies impacts on the constrained lot rather than minimize them. Additionally, granting the requested relief would alter the character of the neighborhood, undermine the purposes of zoning, and set an undesirable precedent for development on similarly constrained lots. In this application, the hardship is self-created, as it comes from the applicant's proposal to construct a residence of a size and configuration that exceeds what the lot and its environmental constraints can reasonably accommodate. For these reasons, I feel that this application fails to meet the criteria for variances and an NRSP, and I will be denying this application in its entirety. The applicant has really not demonstrated that the project could reasonably accommodate while minimizing impacts to these natural resources. And the residence being proposed is, in essence, too large for the constraints of the property and not in compliance with one standard outlined in natural resource special permit or variance standards. So for these reasons, I will be denying this application. Okay, let's move on. Are we good, counsel?
Yeah.
Let's move on to other decisions. Nina, Rachel Letterman, and Rowena, oh boy, Langumba, Argules Trust. I tried. 39 Old Fireplace Road in Spring, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-24-7-45, modification of a 2025 determination.
This is a mod.
Yeah, so this
We just did
this one
I know.
is,
It's a mistake.
it was brought to, we just did this one.
Right,
Yeah.
It was brought to our attention when they got the determination that, I don't know how this happened, but the applicant never submitted, before we closed the public hearing, the final plans for the septic system.
Yeah.
They submitted a survey showing where it would be, but they never submitted the matching plans that were updated to show it. They sent a letter that talked about it and talked about the date and everything like that, but the plans just never, for whatever reason, didn't get submitted through OpenGov, or I don't know. Sam was out, so it kind of got a little messy. But so we would modify the approval just to strike the approved plans and then add a condition that they would submit revised plans that match the survey that was approved to then, so then that way they'd have to submit that before they could get a building permit. And then, the planning department and the board can review the plan just to make sure they're good. That's what, yeah.
So we still don't have those plans.
They sent a draft to us, but since the record's closed, I haven't sent it out yet, but I will once they will. Yes, basically.
So
So
how
we'll
are
have
we going to
to-
review this?
So do we have to reopen the record?
Yeah, to
And
bring that in.
Well, that's why we're modifying
okay,
the approval
We're modifying the determination.
because the plans that we did approve and are not the
Right.
correct plans. So I want to take that out. And then we're going to add a condition of the approval that they submit new plans, and then they'll just resubmit the plans to you.
So it's condition of approval, not.
Yes, yeah, condition of the approval to submit the revised plans.
okay, so are we all good with this? Because we don't need a motion, we just need to say yes or no. I'm fine with it.
I'm
I mean,
fine
we have
with
no
it.
choice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll draft a modification for the next meeting for you.
All right, thank you. The next decision, Matthew Whelan, 32 Tyler Road, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-68-12-5, modification of 2023 determination.
Okay, so the original approval for this one in 2023 was for some accessory structures. This is the approved survey. It was for this patio, a retaining wall, which was right here, and a fence, and they were all, I think it's this fence, all within the minimum wetland setbacks from this freshwater wetland over here on the adjacent lot. What they want to do now is, there was a mulch path that was approved over here. That doesn't count towards coverage or anything. If it was gravel, it would, but since it's mulch, it doesn't. So what they would like to do is extend that mulch area a little bit, and then just put in some stepping, like stone stairs kind of, but it's like only a series of like 3 boulders really. Just because it's pretty sloped on this side of the residence. They haven't done this work yet. This is all proposed. And they are also proposing an additional, I think it's about 25 square feet more of re-veg proposed within the wetland buffer.
Re-veg.
Yeah.
But any changes in coverage or anything, or?
No, we believe it falls under a pervious walkway because of the mulch and everything.
Pervious?
Yeah, the mulch doesn't go towards coverage or anything.
Right, oh, that's right, yeah.
So this is to accommodate a change in grade?
It's the existing grade, so they're just putting the stones into the existing slope.
These are the ones that squared off the decking or something, these guys?
It's this patio right here.
Which one? The one
that I don't know, can you see that where my cursor is to the
I can.
that was near the road,
to the
wasn't
south?
it? Is that where's the
No,
road?
the road is right here. So this is Tyler
That's
right
Tyler?
here. And then it's in the rear yard.
It's in the rear. Okay.
Yeah, this is, so the north arrow, it's kind of not oriented with north going up.
This is a modification of our, of the
Approved.
decision.
Yeah.
Not the not so much, not just the written determination. This is,
Yeah.
No, this is a
Mod-
modification of the determination.
So the determination was that other decking you got on the side there?
This
that
patio
one.
is the most substantial structure in that determination. There's also this retaining wall here that was approved.
Okay. No, no.
okay.
Yeah,
But they're not changing the grading or anything, I guess. I'm okay
It's
with it.
described, I think that there's more of a description, set in slope, and this is the image.
I can't see.
What is that? A stepping slope?
It's described, the boulders
I know
are
what
being
you mean.
described as being set in the slope.
Set in slope.
Yes.
Right, oh, yeah.
All right, so I'm good with that.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
I think I'm okay with it.
Okay, so we don't need a motion. We'll move on to Member Berger, the draft minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the draft minutes for Tuesday, January 6, 2026 for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Vice Chair, will you adjourn the meeting?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion then to close the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals work session for January 13th at 8:35 PM.
Second.
Concur.
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 Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.